Hi Rio, how are you?
What's going on, man? I'm pretty well. Yourself?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. I'm happy that it's spring. Finally, we're getting some sunshine. So, where are you calling from today?
I'm in Denver at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah,
You're in and around some nature, which I bet helps with some inspiration as well.
yeah, completely. I mean, it's cool because it's weird here where it'll snow, and then in the morning it's like the sun is out and it's spring and it's melting all the snow, and it's just like this duality that's happening right now. So it's kind of cool to get out for a second, and then just know that summer's coming because summer here gets really hot, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Is it like all mountain trails, skiing, and then it's more like hiking and hot in the summer?
Yeah. Yep,
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks so
definitely.
much for jumping on today. This is part of our In Conversation with series. Really love your work. It's incredible, and kind of looking through your Instagram, and you can really kind of see an evolution, I'd say, in terms of kind of what you were starting out doing, kind of more the Giphy type stuff, to kind of now like full out 3D rendered objects, which we'll get into. But yeah, we'd love to understand a bit more about you. So could we start off by you telling us kind of what your creative journey has been like and where you're at now?
Yeah. Um, so I've always been an artist, like ever since I was born. I remember just playing with Legos and, coloring and just dancing and singing, just all expressing myself constantly. And when I was in the second grade, I won a coloring contest. Like, I can't remember. What was it? No, it was preschool actually. I'm lying. So like the earliest grade, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm just like using the crayons, and then I get selected, and I get in this local newspaper, and then the prizes that you win was like color pencils and markers and all this stuff. And I just remember coming home, and on the couch, it was just like, it looked like a mile high pile of just stuff to play with, like, materials and art materials, art supplies and stuff. And I just was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, more things to make things with, and I don't, I don't know when it really started. I just remember that that was kind of my first real memory of it. And my father is a singer and an artist as well. So I didn't really have a good relationship with him or a relationship with him until recently. But it's just been so cool to see how, those genes are so strong, And so then I went from that to still drawing, doing a lot of art in high school, and had sketchbooks, and was a dancer. And so was always listening to music. And then I went to Ringling School of Art and Design for college, for illustration. So I was doing that. And then I just didn't feel like, I don't know, I didn't feel like that the school was right for me. So I went 1 year, and then I just went into the real world, the art world, like, and started, not the art world, but like, freelancing and doing anything that I could to make money using my art. So I did like face painting at kids' birthday parties. I did caricatures. I did children's books. I did just anything, that, because the local college had a like a chat board or a message board that people were looking for artists to do things. So I was always on there. And then and at nighttime, I started making music, and I was just like really fascinated with getting better at that. And then over time, I started getting pretty good at music. And then, um, this is just kind of running through things pretty quickly, but I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I had cancer. And so that was like a really big moment in my life that kind of reset the clock in a lot of ways, and made me think like, okay, what am I doing? Like, is this the end? Like, where are we going from here? And so I started really using music at that time to be sort of a therapeutic thing and help me get through what was happening. And I believe truly that it was one of the reasons why I survived, because I was um, I was just getting better, and I was creating a lot of things that, I was opening up emotionally in places that I hadn't before. And so the music was reflecting that. And long story short, I beat the cancer, finished the chemo and the radiation. And then some of the music that I made at that time ended up in the hands of some writers that were working with Beyonce. And then I got my first official music placement with Beyonce. And so then that set off the whole thing where I moved to Atlanta, and then I moved to LA, and I was out there making music all the time, but I was just still on the side, like an artist I work with, I'd be like, oh, I have an idea for the album cover, or I have an idea for the music video. And so to me, it was like the art and the music were hand in hand whenever, so I have synesthesia. So when I hear music, I see colors and I see things all the time. And so to me, it was just like this journey of like, how can I do both of the things that I love? Because I was always drawing and I was always dancing and making music. And so then I moved to back to Atlanta for a while, and I started learning After Effects and Cinema 4D. I started directing some music videos for songs that I produced, or making little Instagram videos. And I was getting some pretty good response. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to move to New York. I've always wanted to live in New York, and I want to do this art thing, this design, branding, marketing thing, like seriously. So I went up there, and it was rough at first, of course. New York always does that to you, like gives you a nice dose of reality. And then ended up making some things happen. And I got called by, I did a big campaign for Sprite, and then I shot for New York Fashion Week. And then I got called by Nike. And then I got the call from a friend who worked with Beyonce's team and said that they were looking for some designers. Went in there, and we hit it off and ended up working on Jay Z's 444 tour. And then I got brought on for Beyonce's Coachella show. And then I did the On the Run tour, did some stuff for Travis Scott, Post Malone. And so I was doing a lot of tour visuals. And then I got to this point where I was like, I'm an artist, like, and I'm glad to be helping other people, but I still have these ideas and things that I want to do. And so there's got to be a point where I take some of this resume that I've been building and trying to use it in my own favor. And so I started to do some stuff at Art Basel in Miami, and I had my own show in Jacksonville, Florida. I had something at Soho House in New York, and then, but I was trying to push digital art, which is interesting. And I had a whole show, and it didn't sell one piece, because at the time I didn't have a real way to sell the digital art. So, then the pandemic hit, and it was kind of like, reset everything, no more tour visuals, like the work kind of stopped. And so it was really the time for me to sit down and say, all right, I'm an artist. Let me create from that perspective, and not just getting rented out for my services. You know what I mean? And so then the NFT stuff happened, and it's just kind of been this beautiful, arching journey for me to get the confidence in my own stuff, and standing behind it, and the technology and all of the stars aligning. So here we are.
Wow. Well, what a story. Thank you for sharing. And I'm so happy that you beat cancer. That's amazing. And I can only, wow. I think, yeah, as you said, kind of diving deep, and in terms of the inspiration and like unlocking kind of different opportunities in terms of what you were trying to do creatively, having that time to do that is incredible. With kind of, yeah, you said that you're kind of naturally creative, and it's interesting because I do feel when you talk to people like yourself that, I mean, you are the definition of like a polymath, right? A multi-hyphenate, someone that, it all cross-pollinates, the music, kind of the fashion, and being creative in itself. Kind of what was that initial, was there something that was kind of more of interest to you? Like, how did you find that path initially? Or was it pretty much, oh shit, I've got an opportunity with Beyonce, I'm now going to create kind of whatever type of assets she was looking for? Like, how were you kind of just always kind of creating stuff for others, or did you have a defined style, do you think, from the start, or did that develop over time?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes in waves, like I noticed that I would I would do something and I'd be really fascinated by getting better at that thing, you know. Like for a while it was art, and I had been doing art for so long. By the time I went to art school, it was just kind of like it wasn't interesting me, you know, anymore. Like, I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't challenging me. And I'm the type of person to where when something gets like kind of like, oh, I figured that out, like I try to find the next thing that I don't know, you know, that I've always wanted to learn. So then that's when it came to music, and I was super passionate about it and trying to crack the code. And then once I kind of cracked the code of music, it's like, okay, I've always wanted to direct music videos or, you know, things like that. And then styles, it's interesting because um, I heard this quote one time that like, you don't pick your style, you know, the public does. And it's kind of true, because I would do something and the reaction would be so much greater on this thing that I did, that it was like, okay, well, let me try that again. You know, let me try that again and do it a little different. And next thing you know, it's like, now I'm starting to get hit up by brands for that distinct style. And then I see people sending me things where I'm being copied, you know, or I would have a brand hit me and then they would ask me, you know, how much to do this, or like, here's the timeline. And I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm on this other job. And then 2 weeks later, I see this campaign come out and it looks exactly like all of my stuff, you know? And I was like, okay, you know, and then so that happened already. And I kind of rode the wave onto the shore and realized that, you know, that not that it was done. The same thing happened with the Ugly, where it was like, you know, I started to see people's response to it, and I was like, okay, let me, you know, keep going with this and see where it goes.
And yeah, and were you was it like right moment, right time with, you know, especially with the kind of that format that you have, like the Giphy and kind of the repetitive, almost like collage type style. It's quite quite distinctive in all the examples on your Insta. Is it that thing that you're talking about that got copied?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's a post you referred to, which you said it kind of was a life-changing moment that you created one of these posts. Could you describe why that was such a kind of a changing moment for you?
Yeah. So at the time, I was doing a lot of abstract work, or you know, stuff that wasn't. It didn't have any people in it. And I had a friend of mine that made a good point. Was just like, you know, some of the most popular stuff on Instagram has someone's face. You know, that's what I think people want to see. That's what the algorithm pushes, is having people. And I realized that I didn't have that. And so an artist friend of mine who I really loved her work and her aesthetic and stuff, I asked her for some photos. And so she gave me some, and I made a couple of pieces, and I was just messing around, and I kind of came up with that thing, and I posted it, and it was by far the biggest response that I'd ever seen on my Instagram. And it was kind of just, you know, me going off a tip that in order to kind of get my work more seen, I needed to have that human connection, you know, because you know, people could see something beautiful and colors and abstract and stuff, but I really do feel like that at the time, especially, that's what Instagram was really focused on. So
then you went on
shout out to Mark.
Yeah, to do that, it means you did it for Burberry as well, and a few others.
Yeah, Nike hired me to do a bunch of stuff in that style. Calvin Klein, yeah, Sprite, the big Sprite campaign that's on my Instagram. It uses that style too. So I definitely ran with it for sure. And then I ended up, what was cool is I turned them into Instagram filters as well, because I wanted it to be something to where it's not just me, like you hire me to create this. It's like, now I make the tools so you guys can, you know, do what you want with it too. So I think that was for me where I let it go. You know, it's like, it's for the people.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, and for the audience listening, I mean, that's super interesting. Obviously, you were doing lots of you know, creating lots of different things, different formats, and for you even to explore AR yourself is awesome. I think, you know, a lot of people think it's super complicated, or, you know, how can you do it? So Could you tell us a little bit about that kind of that education process for you, and how was it? Like, was it just jumping onto Spark AR? Did you use Lens Studio? How did you find that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've messed around with some apps like Art to Vive. I think that's how you say it. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And then even when I was in Art Basel in like 2019, I ran across a really cool company called Violet, where the gallery, it was just like a bunch of photos on the wall, and you download their app, and then you point the phone at it, and that photo comes to life, and the whole video plays. And I was like, this is so cool. I love, you know, in me, I'm really interested in technology and, how to be on that cutting edge and do some things that aren't, expected, or, try to take that medium and flip it on its head. So I had a friend of mine who is super technical and, can code and do all these things. And I'm not like that at all. But I was telling him, I was like, yo, man, we should get into this filter stuff. And he, researched it, and he got like really good at it. And then when I kind of told him what I wanted to do, he kind of helped me get on my bike and, kind of just figure it out and help me along the way, because sometimes it can get pretty complex, with especially at the time when Spark was like very, very new. I haven't messed with the Lens Studio yet, but yeah, I am super interested in that level of things and how that's going to be once we all have the contact lenses or the glasses and stuff. I truly believe that's where all of my skills will come together into world building, and not just decorating an art piece that's on your wall, but decorating the home that you're in, or the world that you inhabit, and the music. And even when I was doing my planning my art shows for 2020, it was all about experiential and like, what does it smell like in here? What color is it? Like, what can you touch? What textures are in the room? Like all those sensory things. So yeah, AR is incredible, and I can't wait to see it fully be, supported, and what we can do with it,
What are some of the things that you kind of, I guess you described it there, because I think it's true as an artist, having that ability to like really immerse the audience or the user to almost interact with art. If you create a 3D object, imagine someone can touch it and it makes a sound, or it moves, or it morphs, or it changes in, and I think what's really interesting is that from the discussions that we're seeing, from Facebook and from Snapchat, it was kind of those days of like bunny ears and rainbow tongues are kind of gone. I think there's a real excitement around the diversification of AR, and like, getting creators like yourself and others that are doing some really cool progressive stuff. How can you, import those 3D assets or whatever into Lens Studio or to Spark AR, and how can those objects or kind of artistic experiences come to life? And you're so right. So I think there's a lot of good web developers, and then what I'm hoping to see then is more the evolution will be these types of creators pairing up with these web developers or people that can do the coding, and to kind of create something magic. Or maybe more creatives learn both. But I think it'll be so interesting to see kind of what comes next. And like, I think as well, this last year with the pandemic, there's been all of a sudden such an increase of like interest and curiosity around digital experiences and VR and stuff like that, right? So like, what does that mean for as an artist is pretty cool.
Yeah, completely agree, man. I think for me, to add to that, like for me, meditation has been a big inspiration of my work. And it's ironic because some of the newer stuff I'm doing, the uglies, is a little bit more on the other end of the spectrum, But if you look at
as a AR effect, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on that right now.
Nice.
But I would love to make, like, whenever you're feeling stressed, or whenever you need to meditate, or you need to calm your nerves, like you could just flip a switch, and then, the whole room turns into this serene, thing. And like, there's times where like, I'm like so overwhelmed, or I got so many things I got to do, or ideas I want, that, I just need to take that second to calm. And I just think whenever we can just hit a switch and our whole room turns and is, you know, helping us to relax. And, you know, I think I can't wait for that and to create those kind of experiences, you know?
Absolutely. A big question, but it's a good question. Where do you find your inspiration from?
So, everywhere, honestly, everywhere. I see things all the time that make me feel like shit and, you know, make me want to throw my computer out the window. And I hear a song, or, you know, a sunset, or, you know, out here going in nature and just, you know, seeing a texture or seeing something, you know, just that looks like you would want to, you know, take a photo of it, but you just don't, you know, you just like enjoy it, you know, for what it is. And movies, you know, video games, technology, you know, interviews. I listen to a lot of interviews with artists and creatives, or just people smarter than me. I love to hear how people think or what people went through. You know, very similar to my story. You know, it's like we all have that thing, you know, those things that we went through, those trials and stuff, and to hear things that people have overcome is like a really big inspiration to me. Or just, you know, a way of thinking even, or just how to approach something. Like I may listen to a podcast that has nothing to do with art and still take that, you know, lesson over to art and apply it. So yeah, it's really in everything. I know that's probably, you know, cheating kind of answer, but you know, it's the truth.
No, I think yeah. I think a lot of creators, it is, you know, taking inspiration for a lot of things with all the world around you, you know. But in terms of like coming up with different concepts, like let's talk about the uglies, for example. Like where did this concept come from?
So this concept came from me really wanting to get better at 3D, but I I would only dabble like 2 times, 3 times a month in Cinema 4D. And so I was only getting better like very slowly, you know, and I was, you know, a big fan of seeing people's every days and other people online who were working on something every day and just their progression. And I knew that discipline is something that I have for sure, but on a micro level of like every single day sitting down and doing something, I knew I could definitely use some of that. So I started in January, and I started out because, you know, in January that's when businesses are slowly starting to wake up and get their budgets and, you know, and hire, you know, me because I'm a freelancer. And so while that downtime, I started just doing these every days, but I was doing like 5 hour every days. And it's like, that's kind of not the point, right? But I felt this pressure to make this like beautiful, elaborate thing, you know? And so I was doing that. And then so towards the end of January, you know, I had my plate full with other jobs and commissions, and I didn't have that 5 hours to spend. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I am stressing myself out by trying to like make this thing. So I said, what if I tried to make something ugly, like on purpose, you know? And I just kind of leaned into that. And I did the first post and I posted it. And again, the reaction was crazy. And I'm like, okay, that was interesting, you know, that like, you know, I kind of made some limitations for myself, because I do believe that's where some of the best creativity comes from, is limitations. Like you can only use this color, you can only, you know, use this shape, or you know, and then your brain starts thinking of ways to get out of that. And so putting that limitation on myself and saying, all right, well, let's just go with this. Let's try to stay in this ugly realm and kind of embrace it. And also it's like, you know, the thing with every days that's cool is usually I would have post anxiety, right? I would post something and then it wouldn't get any likes. And then I was like, oh, and I wouldn't post anything for a week because, you know, but with everydays, it's like, all right, it didn't get any likes. Cool. Let's just go to the next thing. I post that. All right, cool. That got a bunch of likes. Sweet. Okay, let me do the next day. And so you stop letting that control, you know, and get you emotional about it. So yeah, so then it just started to be this thing where everybody was commenting and saying their favorite one, and then people like, this is not even ugly, or like, you know, these debates would kind of happen in the comments, and it just seemed like a really cool project that also was inspiring other people to kind of like not, you know, be crushed under that feeling that we have to make something perfect, you know, and especially helped me. So I'm super hyped too, because every time I do something and I surprise myself, like I'm like, how am I going to elevate this idea? You know, I can't just stay here and do the same thing. Like I want to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing the line of what does beauty and ugly and what do we look for when we see something in art. And a lot of people told me about Francis Bacon, and they were like, it reminded them of him. And I did more research on him. I just bought a book about his mentality and stuff, and I want to really go into that. But yeah, it's just beautiful to see something like that organically kind of happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, with everything in society at the moment, you know, it is celebrating the wonderful and the weird and like, you know, everything like that. But then, and then I think also it's like, when I looked at it with the different types of colors and repetition, it's like the Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe, you know, that kind of thing, but a modern age, right? You know, with the 3D rendering. So that's really cool. How long do you think the series will continue?
I don't know. I've had some friends tell me that I should do like a CryptoPunks kind of thing, you know, where I make, you know, maybe at 365, make a year's worth of them, and then like stop and just let that be the thing. What's cool is that I still have other projects I'm doing on the side, and there's an interesting part where I'm at now where it's like, do I feel stuck in this? You know what I mean? Because people like this, and this is all some people know me for. And I'm glad that you were saying earlier that you went down the rest of my page, because I do a bunch of different things, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I'm super grateful that people are connecting with it. So I think I'm just going to go until it doesn't feel right, you know?
And do you
I feel
feel
like I said what I have to say.
yeah, you're getting better at Cinema 4D?
Oh man, way better. Like,
That's so cool though. Like, I mean, do you seriously started from scratch in January? So in 3 months, you're now churning stuff out like this, or
no,
have you had some skill set before in terms of that type of software? Yeah.
yeah, I've had cinema for like 5 years,
Okay.
but again, it's like a couple times a month I'd open it up, like nothing crazy, and it would only be like when I needed it for a specific thing. But now it seems like I'm in cinema more than I'm in After Effects. And that's the interesting thing too, is because sometimes now I get hired to do stuff in cinema. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this yet. Like, you know, but it's good because, you know, this is what I wanted to get better at this year, and kind of like challenge myself, you know, to learn more of the software, because it does so many things that you can't, like I've probably only unlocked like 15% of the program. Like, it just does so many things.
And how are you learning? Just self-learning, YouTube tutorials and stuff like that?
Yeah, I do some tutorials, but very specific ones. Like if I'm trying, like not like you follow it from like beginning to end. It's almost like I need to learn how to like bake this texture, or I need to learn how to, you know, use this node in a certain way. And then a lot of times it's just a ton of experimentation, like me just plugging things in and what does that do? What does this do? What does this do? You know, things. And that's kind of where I think I've gotten better, is that like whenever I would learn something, I would learn it and then I'd forget it after 2 weeks of not doing it, you know, and then I'd come back and I'd have to kind of reteach myself some of those things again. But now that I'm in it every day, it's like the things that I learned are sticking.
And I bet
So
those kind of beautiful moments as well when you press the wrong button and it creates something crazy and you're like, ah, I like that.
I take credit for it.
Yeah,
That's
I did it on purpose.
everything. Yeah.
uh, so quickly tell me as well about NFTs. So obviously you're creating this amazing stuff, and then all of a sudden on the news you see that you can make a quick $2 million. Everyone's doing NFTs, right? So that must have been kind of crazy to see in the news, and all of a sudden like, how can I do NFTs? So it's something that you're exploring.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I learned about NFTs in like October of last year. Um, I was seeing some of the artists that I follow, some OGs and people that have been doing things for a long, long time were starting to post, from super rare or different things. And then I was in a couple of the clubhouse rooms early on with people and watching him do some drops, and I still didn't understand it. I was trying to wrap my head around it. And then I started seeing more and more rooms, started asking questions, started to kind of learn the different platforms and just how it worked. And I think I was kind of waiting for this magical moment to happen or something to like happen. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Let me just jump in. Let me just mint something. Let me see what happens. Let me see how it works. And so I went in and I minted it, and I sold my first piece, and then I minted another one, and then I was like, okay. And then I tried a different platform, and it's just been kind of the last, I think, almost 3 months now that I've been selling NFTs. And it's crazy to hear the stories about like the $1 million and the this and that, but to be honest, my favorite things are hearing about artists that make 20 grand in a month, and like those stories. And so they can say no to their job, or they can, finally like get a car or move out of a situation that wasn't, great for them. And especially as a digital artist, I've been called a content creator for so long that my art, well, I was telling you, I did that art show and I had nothing to sell. I had everything to show and nothing to sell. And so this was kind of this answer to this question that I've had for a while. And this pressure to like, how do I make, physical art? Like even with the AR filters, I'm making these experiences, but we don't get paid at all for any of the augmented reality things that we do. I'll get hired from brands to make, you know what I mean, a filter for them. But if there was a cool way to like get a streaming royalty or something every time someone used the filter, but it's just like considered content, So I'm happy about NFTs. I really, really am. One of my favorite quotes from Thank You X, he's like, you don't call someone a digital photographer, they're a photographer, whether they use film or not. Like someone's a painter, are they a digital painter? Or are they, like a sculptor, someone uses clay, someone uses ZBrush. It's the same thing, just modern tools. So it should be treated with the same respect to me, So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think, yeah, it's just so interesting, the like labels and the titles and stuff. But as you said, yeah, everyone's just an artist, Yeah. How do you stay productive and kind of maintain your well-being? Do you have like a certain routine, or just being out in the nature is what keeps you going?
I have no problem being productive. That's definitely not the problem. The problem is stopping, right? Learning when to like relax and give myself a break, or say no is another really hard thing for me to do, because especially now it's like there's some momentum going and I'm getting calls like every day for cool things. And it's just like my plate is already full, and having to say no to like things that I like really want to do or really want to be a part of. It's tough. And I can feel it when, that feeling like when you finish one thing and then two more are added, to your to-do list. Like, it's just, you definitely have to make time for, your family, for some personal time, for your mental health, for your actual health, working out, getting out, especially us creatives that sit inside and stare at a computer all day, every day, sitting in a chair. You got to be really mindful of of how long you've been there, you know, and sort of even your eyes, your vision. So yeah, I would say just it's more of a like it's learning when to slow down, when to take a break, when to say no, and putting some of those limitations on you so you don't burn out, you know?
Yeah. That's really good advice as well. It's true though, man. Like I think I was looking even at getting those like blue filter glasses because some days I'm like I can't even. you're like
Yeah.
pulling your face off the screen at the end of the day, right? um,
Yeah.
Last couple of questions from me. What are your ambitions for the future? Like, what are you excited about? What is there anything? What have you got coming up?
So I got a couple cool collaborative drops coming up this month and next month, but I'm really trying to drop an EP that I made. Um, it's this project that I created kind of when music and I were at odds, you know, and I was in a lawsuit with the record label because they hadn't paid me and it took 6 years, and so it kind of took the love out of creating. And when I finally started to feel it come back, I made a project, and it's called Free Music, and it's super important to me. And I think that the alignment of the NFT space and the fact that I do music and I do art and I created this, you know, this body of work, I really want to put that out in the next month or two, and kind of do a drop with it, and really kind of use some of the spotlight that's being put on me right now to kind of really push that.
I'm excited to keep following and seeing those things come out. I mean, it's awesome. And just lastly, like, what tips or tricks would you have for like any young creators out there? Like, what advice would you give them who is starting out or wanting to get in the industry?
Yeah, so uh, I've been asked this a few times recently, and I think the number one thing is that things that I still go through to this day, even after being, you know, in the creative industries for a while, is that the imposter syndrome, you know, just like waking up and feeling like, oh, I don't fit here, or there's so many people better than me, or I don't know this software as well as people think I do, or, you know, whatever, or maybe I'm a great artist, but I'm not a great marketer and I don't know how to do this, you know. Um, and there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, and especially now that artists have to be the artist, they have to be the social media manager, they have to be the PR team, they have to be, you know, the networker and go out and meet people, and the management sometimes, and then business manager and deal with the money. You know, sometimes you got to do a print shop. Like we have to do so many things, and sometimes that's not fun when we just like creating art. And the other part would be that, you know, if you are constantly, you know, moving towards being a better you and being a better artist, there's always going to be people that are, you know, that you look at their work and you feel intimidated, or you're just like, man, why can't my work be that good or whatever? Because at the same time you're looking at them, someone's looking at you in the same way, you know, like, oh man, I wonder. And sometimes it's even yourself, you know, like myself from 5 years ago would look at the stuff I'm doing now and be like, oh man, I wish I could be, because now that's me, right? And and that you're always going to be sandwiched in between someone that's better than you and someone that's wishing they could be as good as you. And no matter where you are, you know, in the ladder of success, I think you will always be there. And to just get comfortable in that space, you know, take inspiration, see people that are doing things, and just say, you know what, I'm going to get a little bit better every day. That's what I like about the everydays, is that I can see the progress. It's just a little bit of progress. It's like putting $1 in a jar, you know, over time, and then, you know, it accumulates. And as opposed to some people that just like say, all right, I'm taking a week off work and I'm gonna learn this thing. And, you know, it's like, okay, you did that, but you're much better off just doing 30 minutes, an hour a day, you know what I mean? And just staying consistent. So that's kind of a very unorganized jumble of
It's just so inspiring, man. Wow, thank you. Um, Awesome. Well, sadly, that's kind of all the time we've had. It was so incredible speaking to you. For anyone that wants to learn more or find out, we'll share the links. But could you just tell the audience, like, what's the Instagram, what's the website, what's the best way to find you online?
Yeah, so all my social, Twitter and Instagram is this REO, THISREO. I have a website. It's still kind of like, in beta, but it's reometry.com. And yeah, and then you can check on my Instagram profile and Twitter. I have a link with all the stuff that I'm promoting at the moment, the music, whatever NFTs I'm doing. It's all in my link in my bio.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, look forward to seeing what's up next for you.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time as well.
Thank you. Bye.